Good evening. You're watching NewsX with me, Megha Sharma, and the story that we are tracking is the landing of Chandrayaan 2 in just a week from now. That's September 7th. It's a big, prideful moment for every single Indian across the world. In fact, Chandrayaan 2 has gone ahead and captured the imagination of millions across the globe as well. After the successful performance of its fourth lunar orbit, which was a maneuver that was held on 30th of August, it has at last performed the fifth and final maneuver, making the spacecraft enter the final orbit, passing over the lunar pole at a distance of just about 100 kilometers from the moon's surface. Now, ISRO has said that subsequently the lander will separate from the orbiter tomorrow, that is early in the morning, and enter into a 100 kilometers by 30 kilometers orbit around the moon. It will then perform a series of complex braking maneuvers to soft land into the south pole of the moon on September 7th. Now, ISRO has gone ahead and said it is ready for its next big step and that all the spacecraft parameters were normal. It's a big moment of pride for the country. Of course, it's Chandrayaan that is going to be landing on the moon, on the south pole of moon. That's the first by any country, any space agency whatsoever. And tomorrow, in fact, is the day when the lander Vikram and rover Pragyan are going to be detached from the orbiter. In fact, I am joined by two guests who are going to throw some light into this event, this majestic event that is holding everybody's interest across the globe. I'm joined by Dr. V.N. Jha, who is a former Joint Director of DRDO and a retired scientist at Aerospace. Welcome on the show, sir. And I'm also joined by Colonel Dinesh Nain, who is a satellite and space expert. It's great to have you both on the show. And first things first, we have already completed the 5 maneuvers inside the lunar orbit that has happened, which is a big feat in itself, and everything has happened like clockwork, Mr. Jha, Dr. Jha. And now let's talk about tomorrow. Early morning, what is going to happen is that the rover Pragyan and the lander Vikram are going to be detached from the orbiter. How does this process actually happen, and when does ISRO finally decide is the right time to do that maneuver?
If my informations are correct, yesterday's maneuver, ISRO has put the orbiter into 124 into 164 kilometer orbit. Right. And this is the penultimate orbit. There is one more maneuver due today around 6 to 7. There will be one more final maneuver in which this orbiter will be put into 100 kilometers. Right. And that will remain for the, ever for the orbiter. That is due today between 6 and 7. And of course, you will have communicate from ISRO. And tomorrow, there is a very small maneuver, but very delicate. Right. Tomorrow, as you understand right now, the lander and the orbiter, both are right now joined. Tomorrow, sometime, they will detach the lander from the orbiter. Right. But there is no further maneuver. It is only the detachment. Because thereafter, I understand the configuration is already in the aft orientation. That means the thruster of the orbiter is already facing forward. So it is already there. So tomorrow on 2nd, they will only detach the 2 and just keep it like that. Then on 3rd, day after tomorrow, then there is a very delicate maneuver in which the 2 will be detached already as on yesterday. And then the booster system, the propulsion system of the lander will be switched on for 3 seconds. So that 3 seconds switching on of the lander will have lot of implications, because that is where right now the heartbeat of the ISRO scientists are right now thumping to go for. Absolutely. Because once that is switched on, and switched off, that will confirm that yes, lander rockets are absolutely in the fine shape. And then on 4th will be the one deorbiting maneuver of the lander. Okay. So there are few things which is now scheduled. After the deorbiting maneuver happens on 4th, then it will go into that 35 into 100 kilometers orbit, and it will continue coming down. Presently, the configuration has got a forward speed of about 1.6 to 1.7 kilometers per second. Tomorrow it will remain, today evening it will be further reduced a bit.
So Dr. Jha, if you could actually explain to our viewers, because I'm sure nobody understands all these technical jargon at the end of the day, but what is the significance of having that maneuver? Like, we had 5 maneuvers in the Earth's orbit, and now this is the 5th one into the lunar orbit, and then finally onto the south pole of Moon. So what is the significance of these maneuvers, and how exactly does the entire satellite travel around that entire lunar surface, and that's how it's projectiled, that's how it is propelled into the next, into the orbit further, closer to the Moon?
There are 2 basic reasons. One, as you are all aware, that Moon's gravity is just about 1/6 of the Earth.
Right.
So when on 14th and 20th, when the 20th it was inserted into the lunar orbit, that time our Chandrayaan 2 had a very long orbit of almost about 18,000 kilometers. That is we call it far side, apogee or apollyon, we call it for the lunar. And that 18,000 has been slowly being kept coming down due to various maneuvers. From 18,000 it came to 4,400. Then from 4,400 it came to 1,400. And day before yesterday it came to 164 kilometers. Remember, Moon has very less gravity. So this entire complex will try to come as close to the Moon's surface as possible. And as today's maneuver is due, where it will be brought to a circular orbit.
Right.
Circular polar orbit, that means it will continue going through the North Pole and South Pole. It will continue revolving. In that, it will be about 100 kilometers circular orbit from today onwards. And when it separates, then the path is sure. So that path will be continuing. One more
All right. On that note, I would also want to have the views of Colonel Dinesh Nain, who's also joined with us on the broadcast. Colonel Nain, a former NASA scientist today has, in fact, he's an Indian origin NASA scientist at one point of time, and he has gone ahead and said that the entire world would be focusing on this entire event, that is the grand event that is going to happen. In fact, even is happening even as we speak. The orbiter and the lander and the rover are right now circulating, are revolving around the lunar surface, the entire Moon, and they're saying that if water is found, if ice is found, that's going to be a massive breakthrough, because NASA has been looking to do that, and in fact in the next 5 years it plans to land on the south pole of Moon. And this is India, it's ISRO that has gone ahead and jump-started this entire process, and we have even gone ahead, United States and NASA, in accomplishing this feat. How important, how significant it is on the global forum?
See, Megha, we are going to see surprises definitely on 7th of September. It's a hidden surprise which probably our scientists will not disclose it right away. If you permit me, I'll just come down to for the viewers, as you were asking, to explain the thing in a very, very plain language.
Yeah.
See, this Chandrayaan 2 of ours had gone through 5 phases to reach that south pole of Lunar. First is it's launched by GSLV-3, Mark 3, GSLV Mark 3, to the earthbound phase. Means it was supposed to be placed into an orbit around the Earth,
right,
which is geostationary. Over there, then we were doing that maneuvering to enhance its orbits, because we wanted it to gain speed with the help of the Earth gravity. And finally, with the 5th time when we maneuvered the thing, the gravity, due to the gravity, the speed of the Chandrayaan 2 had come closer to an escape velocity. Now, escape velocity of any planet is the velocity with which if you attain that velocity, you can come out of the gravitational attraction of that particular planet.
Right.
So it was 10.4 kilometers per second, which Chandrayaan 2 did. And it entered into its journey then towards the moon. It got itself transferred after attaining the escape velocity into the lunar transfer orbit. Now this lunar transfer orbit was very close to the lunar place position, where lunar was positioned at that particular moment. When this Chandrayaan 2 reached on July 22 closer to the moon,
right.
Now we had to do the third important action, that was lunar bound phase. Means now the action was we had to launch this thing, insert our spacecraft or this Chandrayaan 2 into the lunar orbit. Now here it was slightly tricky, because if the speed is very high, then it will go into the space. And if the speed is very slow, it will fall down on the moon surface. Whereas we want it to circulate around the moon on the orbit. So accordingly, 180-degree turn was given to the spacecraft, and with thrust engines, we lowered the speed to an extent when moon could catch it into its orbit, and it started orbiting around the moon. So after 24 hours of that, we did first lowering of orbit, and today we are doing the fifth one.
Right.
So now when we are doing the fifth one, as rightly explained earlier, it is going to attain a 100-kilometer radius around the lunar or around the moon. And tomorrow or maybe day after, as per the scientists' decision, again this will take a 180-degree turn. And first, till now, all the thrust engines were being fired by the orbiter.
Absolutely.
And now first time.
In fact, I have some images, and if my producers could just focus on the iPad that I have on in front of me, they're the images of the launch vehicle. We also have, it's also called Bahubali over here. It's the launch vehicle. Sir. It's 640-ton rocket. That's the GSLV Mk3, sir. And of course, it has a height of 43.43 meters, which was obviously, this was the start when actually the launch vehicle launched that rocket into the lunar surface, eventually into the space, and then the lunar surface. But then we have the orbiter over here on your screens. Now, this is what we're talking about, the orbiter, which weighs 2,379 kgs. And this orbiter is going to detach itself from the lander and the rover. So that's exactly what is going to happen tomorrow, September 2nd, when exactly there's a right time that is going to be ascertained by ISRO. There are going to be a set of commands that are going to be fed into the system, and then it's going to happen like clockwork and within a fraction of a second, isn't it?
But see, Megha, the problem now will be that till now we were all monitoring the systems. But now the phase will start when pre-planned things will take place. Okay. So now the orbiter, which we call Vikram, will keep orbiting around the moon at 100 kilometers radius in that particular orbit for one year, and it is going to do a lot of observations. With it, about 3 to 5 payloads are there on that, which are going to do a lot of observations and scientific studies. And thrust engines of the lander now will separate itself from there, and now the first maneuver will take place. That where the lander will take an orbit of 30 kilometers to one side of the moon and coming down to 100 kilometers where the orbiter is rotating around. Okay. So both of these now are going to have an extensive, surface study, moon topography study to find out where exactly to land. These signals are going to come back to our scientists now on Earth through orbiter, and then they are going to select finally where exactly this should land. Now, when they decide to land it on 6th and 7th, the lander has got about it has got 8 thruster engines, and 5 it has got the liquid engines.
All right, that's a lot of technical jargon, and of course, as much as I would want to understand, but then also what I want to understand from Dr. V.N. Jha over here is, and what are the specific functions of the lander Vikram and of the rover Pragyan? Why are these two going to be playing a very important role when it comes to landing on the South Pole? And then what exactly are they going to explore on the lunar surface, the South Pole especially?
All right. There are two things, Megha, I wanted to inform to all of your viewers. One, from today onwards, every day there is something going to happen on this Chandrayaan.
Yeah.
Today, as I
yes,
told
like,
you, today,
like Colonel Nain rightfully mentioned, yes.
Yes. Today, the orbit will be made circular to 100 into 100. Tomorrow, the orbiter will be separated, just separated from the lander, Vikram. That will be tomorrow.
Okay.
Day after tomorrow, the lander has already been separated. That will be switched on for 3 seconds, just to test all the systems. That will be day after tomorrow. And finally, the next day, the maneuver of placing into the lower orbit, 35 into 100, that will start. So that day again, there will be boosting of the lander for about 6.5 seconds, what Professor Sivan had mentioned. So these are the 4 days very important. And of course, 6th night, 7th morning is the D-Day. Other than that, you know, this lander is carrying few things till now which has not been tested on the lunar surface. One is the seismic activity. The quakes, the moon quakes, that is not yet known fully to us. So that is one. Second, the temperature mapping of the surface of the moon will be there on the South Pole, which has not been done till now.
Okay.
And thirdly, the prajna. That is a very important thing. All scientists are keeping their fingers crossed that the rover, prajna, must roll out and do its exercise. Remember, prajna is...
Congress family, then...
Yes, go ahead, Dr. Jha. If you can hear me? All right. So that's exactly what Dr. Jha was explaining, the functions of lander Vikram and rover Pragyan. Now, they are going to be detached from the orbiter. That's happening tomorrow. And finally, they will be landing in a week's time onto the south pole of moon. And all eyes across the globe, the NASA, the Russian space agency, across the world, scientists are going to be waiting with bated breath what exactly are the explorations that are going to be taken by ISRO, by the lander and the rover that are going to be landing over there on the South Pole. Of course, we are hoping to find ice over there. There are also some, like Dr. Jha just now said, the temperature mapping is also going to be of important significance. And in fact, the way ahead, if I would like to call in Colonel Nain over there, what happens? How long till the lander and the rover are actually on the moon's surface? We know for a fact that the lander has the life of staying on the moon's surface for 14 Earth days. So what exactly does it mean in layman terms? Will it completely disintegrate within 14 days? And is that the stipulated time that we have at the end of the day to complete this entire exercise, to explore as much as we possibly can and bring in samples of the craters over there and study them in detail?
Well, Megha, the orbiter will keep rotating around the moon on its lunar orbit for 1 year.
Okay.
After we land the lander, that's Vikram, named after Vikram Sarabhai, on the South Pole, it will take around 15 minutes, crucial 15 minutes, when the speed has to come down from 4,000 kilometers per hour to 0 speed, and it has to land perfectly, a soft landing. After waiting for 4 hours, then our rover, Pragyan, is to come out, which will be moving at a speed of approximately about 3 centimeters or 1 centimeter per second. And it has to cover a distance of about 500 meters in those 14 days, which is called a lunar day.
Right.
Because, Megha, on the moon, it is just that 14 days on the Earth amounts to one day of lunar. But the problem is this: nothing will happen to the Pragyan. The only thing is that once the day phase goes off, it will not be able to get some sunlight for making that, getting that energy. So probably it will not be able to function without the sunlight in that dark phase. That's all. Otherwise, if it can maintain itself, again, maybe that in the second lunar phase, second lunar day, when it comes, it may function when it's going to be seen. But what I would like to add on here, if you permit me, is that you see, we are not going there for picnic. we have already sent our Chandrayaan-1 over there.
Right.
And we have found out that there is water over there. The only thing which happened is that NASA was too smart. Before we could publish a paper on that, NASA published it. And that's the reason we decided not to permit any other payloads of any other country now on Chandrayaan-2, except one payload of US, which is of the laser, and which we are going to use for our use there. We're not going to give any information out from there. So this has to be seen very critical, this thing. Information is going to be very, very secret from there. And we are very sure we are going to find water. Now, what will happen if we get water? See, another, like any expeditions to Mars, probably Moon is going to become the base. If we have water there, we can get oxygen, we can get water for living, for the people to go and stay there. We may make some lunar colonies over there. And it can be very effective for us in three things. One is we may take out operations reverse to the Earth side in emergency and contingency positions. We may be using it for going to the other planets. And thirdly, helium-3 is one thing which we are eyeing for. You know, Megha, helium-3, the same amount of helium-3 and 5 times that amount of uranium-235 are equal. But the energy produced by both, one has got this, negative energy coming out, that is ultraviolet rays and also harmful to us. But helium-3 does not have. It's a clean energy, but much more powerful than
That's a very, very significant point you pick, Colonel, over there. Helium-3, if we end up discovering it and if we end up bringing it down to the Earth's surface and using it, that would be spectacular, wouldn't it be? But in fact, I'd interject you over here and let's actually play out how exactly is Chandrayaan-2 going to land on the Moon's surface. Take a look.
Vikram, the lander, will land on the Moon anytime between the 6th and the 7th of September 2019. If all goes well, which it should, up until this point, ISRO has used the same strategy as the Chandrayaan-1. What's new, in fact, is this landing. We will, for the first time, attempt what is called a soft landing on the lunar surface, and if successful, India will join the elite space club with US, China and the erstwhile Soviet Union as the fourth nation in the world to have achieved this feat, and that too in the first attempt.
This is what the lander Vikram looks like. All hopes of Chandrayaan-2 rely on this 1000 kg device. Once it lands successfully, it will put India in the international headlines once again. ISRO is sure of the landing. This is how we'll do it. Once the orbiter is in the Moon's orbit, it will take 27 days to revolve around the Moon and deorbit the lander. This will happen at a distance of 100 kilometers, and it will take the lander, once separated, 4 days to reduce the distance to 30 kilometers. Meanwhile, the orbiter will be scanning the surface of the Moon for a landing site. Once the site is locked, the information will be relayed to the lander. On the 6th or the 7th of September, 53 days after being launched, the lander will have 15 minutes to make a soft landing. It will travel at a speed of 2 kilometers per minute so that the landing can be smooth.
It takes the 15 minutes from the starting of the braking of the velocity to landing. This 15 minutes is going to be the most terrifying moment for all the people who belong to ISRO, probably for the scientists and people of India also. Yeah, this 15 minutes is going to be the most difficult task that ever ISRO has undertaken the mission to land it on that.
The lander is landing on the Moon's south pole, an uncharted territory. This location has been chosen as it is permanently shadowed. We're hoping to find water and minerals as well as clues about the early solar system. Lander of Chandrayaan-2 has been named Vikram after Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, the man whose name is synonymous with India's space program. It weighs a whopping 1,471 kgs and can create electricity up to 650 watts. It will function for 1 lunar day, which is equivalent to 14 Earth days, and has been designed to make a soft landing which means that the vehicle will not be damaged or destroyed during the process. It has been equipped to communicate directly with the Earth and can also communicate with the orbiter and the rover. Once landed, it will be studying the moon's quakes while gathering data from the rover.
All right, so that was exactly how the entire process of the Chandrayaan-2 landing onto the soft landing, in fact, onto the lunar surface, that too on the South Pole, a feat that has not been achieved by any other country so far. What a moment of pride, and everybody across the world is awaiting, especially Indians from all across the world. In fact, I would like to want Dr. Jha to intervene over here and tell us about how exactly is this entire process, is this entire experiment going to be of importance to us, especially when it comes to water, especially when it comes to finding hydrogen and oxygen, and also delving into what the solar system, especially what the solar surface would entail, especially because of the craters that are going to be explored by Chandrayaan-2, by the orbiter, by the lander and the rover, and what is going to be found from there.
Well, Megha, the Chandrayaan project of ISRO is absolutely linked, one nut after another nut. The thing is that Chandrayaan-1 has visited water at the South Pole. Possibility of water, frozen ice was there.
Right.
Chandrayaan-2 is exactly going to the same place for various reasons, and one of the reasons is just to confirm that yes, there is ice is there, the water is there, and in addition, South Pole is one area where least impact, least crater due to the impacts of the other objects into the surface has happened. So it is believed that the South Pole of Chandrama, of Moon, is by and large in the original material what it was meant to be. So when the lander comes there, lands there, and the rover comes out, yes. Rover is going to do the complete elemental analysis of the surface, and that will confirm what all are there in the surface. Water, new metals, new materials, new molecules, all these things are within the ambit of the rover, Pragya. And remember, this is the all original, absolutely original data that India will have of the moon's surface. And this will be of a huge importance subsequently, because you never know. Right now, we have 118 elements in our periodic table of the science. Tomorrow, 119th may emerge due to just this rover's analysis of the moon's surface. Some new element may come out. So, a lot of significance is there for the entire thing for the science community of India.
In fact, I'd also like Colonel Nain to come in over here and tell us how majestic, how historic this entire moment is going to be, and how this is going to place us in the world map when it comes to a powerful out of Earth experiences when it comes to that, and a technological prowess that we have attained with this particular exploration, entire expedition at that.
To start from beginning, launch it. We have launched this satellite or spacecraft with the least amount economical. Other people, when they are spending $540 million, our complete process till landing at moon is going to cost us $140 million only. And as far as sending the things into space, we have already sent 104 satellites together recently. By one space.
Absolutely.
One launch. Now, coming down to the moon side, you remember this about last week only, NASA was trying with malified intention, was trying to defame ISRO about that ASAT thing, that we had hit the satellite and debris and all this thing, and all that stuff. People are literally foxed because they do not know what India is having in mind.
Absolutely.
And we know what,
absolutely.
what,
With NASA trying
doing.
to defame us, and also for the fact that this is going to happen if this entire expedition, the lunar expedition, is massively successful, it is going to put a dent on the credibility of NASA and other space agencies across the world. And India is going to be looked upon on a brighter light, on a new light. And that's exactly what the likes of NASA are afraid of. But with that, we come to the end of this debate. I have as much time as I could to give into this debate, but it's fascinating, isn't it, to actually watch Chandrayaan 2 in our lives landing on moon, and this is going to be a feat in itself when it soft lands on the south pole of moon. I thank my panelists, Dr. Jha and also Colonel Nain, but we will be tracking this entire event that unfolds until the September 7th. That's the soft landing day when the lander and the rover land onto the moon's surface. But continue watching NewsX, because on the other side, there's Fame and FOMO, where the social entrepreneurs, where the social influencers are going to tell you more about their lives.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.